that I hate, yes. Okay. A fake can be defined as an artwork intended to deceive. The motives of its creator are decisive, and the merits of the object itself is a separate issue. The question mark in the title of Mark Jones' Fake, The Art of Deception, reveals the study's broader concerns. Indeed, it might equally be entitled Original, and the text begins by noting a variety of possibilities somewhere between the two extremes.
Okay, so go ahead and stop here because a lot goes on in this first paragraph. So the first part, we have like kind of like our definition, right? A fake is something that's intended to deceive. So already I'm thinking like what I'm trying, I have to actually try to deceive for something to be fake.
Mm-hmm.
And then the motives of its creator are decisive. So that means like the person that doing it, I feel like decisive and intended to deceive are very similar, where it's like the person doing this is very decisive that they want to deceive. I don't like that's really to use 3 words, but then it goes on, but the merit of the object itself is a separate issue. What does that mean?
So I don't really know like merit of an object, but when I read it, I was like, okay, just like briefly reading the 2 sentences, since he talked about fake stuff and the motive of its creator and stuff like that, I was like, okay, so we're not concerned about anything else. I was like, okay, it's basically honing in on the intention, and the fake is you like those 2 are unique with each other.
Yes. Did anybody else get anything else from the merit of the object as a separate issue?
Like I thought of it, I don't know if it's right, but like I thought that like the intention of the creator and like the merit is like 2 different things. So like whether it's actually fake is like completely different, like
Then what? There's a cue word that I'm thinking of here.
the motives, like what the creator intended.
Yeah. Okay, so I feel like I was thinking of quality. So like like some things like are fake and they're like knockoffs. I was thinking of like the merit of the object itself. I was thinking the quality is a separate issue. That might not be right, but that was where I went with it. But I think everybody's right on there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that makes sense because when you think of fake, like think about like the fake Coach purses, right? It can be fake because it's intended to deceive, or it can just be a knockoff. All right, so the question mark in the title of Mark Jones' Fake, The Art of Deception, reveals the study's broader concerns. I had to think about this for a couple seconds of like, this is actually a book.
Mm-hmm.
And then that question mark, I didn't like that question mark in there. I was like, what?
Well, the thing that threw me off on this, like, so that's the whole title, The Fake, The Art of Deception. But then like in the rest of the thing, it was a stupid thing, but like fake is the only thing mentioned of the title. And so like I was like, wait, where's the Art of Deception play in this title?
Yeah, no, it's the whole indeed, it might be entitled Original, and the text begins by noting a variety of possible somewhere between the 2 extremes. So we the authors comes in here pretty strong by saying it might equally be entitled Original. And I feel like there's some humor it's not, I think it's funny now because I've read it like 7 times, but it's not funny the first time. But Original, we're kind of saying like, you're calling it Fake, The Art of Deception, but why could it equally be entitled Original? And then what are the 2 extremes that we're talking about?
Isn't it just like the fake and the original? Like
that's what I thought. These 2 sentences really tripped me up. Like I spent longer trying to just figure out what they were trying to say, and I struggled so hard with that. Eventually I just kind of brute force moved on. But
yeah, no, I agree. So it does tell us in the next sentence, when I got to these 2 extremes, if I'm going to pause for a couple seconds and think about, have I noticed them already? If I don't know, I allow myself to go to the next sentence because it does answer. And oftentimes the test does do that. But one thing that's cool is when we stop at like, oh, what are those 2 extremes? We're actively engaging. And so whenever it says these include works, that's answering our question. And we kind of lean into that sentence a little bit more because we want to know what these 2 extremes are. Do we see that? Or are we good? Okay, good. Sorry. I don't want to bore people by getting too in the nitty gritty, but so I'm like, okay, so these include works by an artist's followers, in the style of the master, deliberate archaism, copying for, I don't even know what these all are saying, pedagogical purposes, and the production of commercial facsimiles. So then I thought these, and I'm like, wait, these aren't actually the two extremes, right? Because there's way too many of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, wait, that's not what I predicted. So then I have to go back and think, okay, so what are our two extremes? I took the two extremes of either, I was thinking, okay, so either we're talking about like fake versus original, which people said, or is there a like spectrum of how much we deceive people?
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody else have any other predictions?
I was kind of like combined with what was both said was like I was kind of like thinking of that spectrum was like there's fake, there's original, and like the possibilities of the differences between those.
And what would be the differences between them? Because what is our definition of fake?
The motive to deceive.
Yeah, so what would cause something
like the level of deception
between fake and original? Yeah, so are we all full circle there? Very tough, I think, very tough. And then these works include, and these are, and I literally in my head was just like, all right, these must be like the descriptions of styles of art that I have no idea, but cool, moving on. I didn't spend much time on that last sentence at all. All right, Mohib, can you do like the next 4 sentences, please?
Yeah. So the greater part of fake is devoted to a chronological survey suggesting that faking feeds on the many different motives people have for collecting art, and that on the whole, the faking of art flourishes whenever art collecting flourishes.
Okay, so sorry, that's like a 5-sentence long sentence. So what do you think that is saying?
So like the latter part of like the half, I thought was like the most important, I guess, part of it. So they're kind of like talking about the correlation that, was it the faking of art flourishes whenever art collecting flourishes. So I think like I picked up that to be like the most important part of the whole whatever I just read so far.
Yeah, the faking of art flourishes when art collecting flourishes. So it's like, and that makes sense, right? Whenever people are really wanting art and like, oh, I want this, I want this LeBron James rookie card, like fakes are going to come more because there's a high price for it. Awesome. All right, continue on. The other part that I just noticed here was the word greater. Not that it's huge, but I just thought anytime we use a really strong word like that, I just kind of note it in my head. I'm like, oh, this is like the majority. Okay, anyways, continue.
In Imperial Rome, there was a widespread interest in collecting earlier Greek art and therefore in faking it. No doubt many of the sculptures now exhibited as Roman copies were originally passed off as Greek. So I guess like right now they're just talking about like the history of like
yeah,
how.
And what is this? And if this was a role question, what are we doing right now? We're offering.
Well, I guess we're gonna start talking about the correlation now.
Yeah, I was even simpler. I feel like we're just offering examples of like whenever it flourishes, fake pieces flourish too.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're just kind of showing, oh, this is what happens.
Right. Okay. In medieval Europe, because art was celebrated, more for its devotional uses than for its provenance of the ingenuity of its creators, the faking of art was virtually non-existent. I don't know if that's it.
Yeah, no, okay, so this is a tough sentence because I feel like we start to kind of, I thought it was going to carry on of like more examples of the flourishing and the faking, but then and I don't like that this should be a new paragraph, I think. But what are we saying? Amlika, what do you think we're saying here?
I took this as kind of like a counter example to the point above where here there's like a different purpose for the art where it's I guess more like religious. So like faking
Is that what that means, prominence?
No, I don't know.
Are you just getting that from the word devotional? You're like, that's
yeah, I think
religious.
But I took it as like art, the whole like art wasn't as popular, so people didn't have the need to fake it.
Okay. Is it that art's not more popular?
Or it's not flourishing.
Okay, so the faking's not flourishing. So here we're talking about medieval art. People celebrated things like more for like I took it as more for its devotional uses rather than like its ingenuity. So I took it as like people like their own, almost like personalized, right? It's almost like what the purpose of it or why it was created. We care about that more. So like if my brother made me a wooden stick or something, like I'm gonna value that more than having this copied piece rather than this, you know, like the provenance or ingenuity. So therefore the faking of art was virtually non-existent because people don't want to have something that everybody else has.
So like, how would this kind of like relate back to the correlation that we're talking about again?
We don't know yet. That's a great question. Like
Okay.
that's when we're being curious. Like I want to know of like, well, then how does this have to do with what fake is talking about?
But like, so this the pink it's kind of in contrast with what we just read though, right? Like,
Yeah, it is. No, exactly.
okay, cool.
All right. Do you want to keep going, Mahib?
Yeah, the modern age of faking again in the Italian Renaissance was two linked developments. A passionate identification with the world of antiquity and a growing sense of individual artistic identity. A patron of the young Michelangelo prevailed upon the artist to make his sculpture Sleeping Cupid look as though it had been buried in the earth, so that it will be taken for antique and you will sell it much better.
Okay, so what's going on so far?
I guess like they identify two developments. And then they're talking about like they introduced like the Michelangelo thing where it was like a different style of like his art was like a different style.
Okay, so I feel yes. So we get there. So I feel like we bring in a new example of how we're faking. So we come back, and that's why I hate that pink sentence so much. I'm like, that's out of place. And so the reasons that they now are faking, I guess, is it's a passionate identification with the world of antiquity and a growing sense of individual artistic identity. And here I was a little bit confused because I was like, individual artistic identity, like how do we would really have to be smart about how we're copying a different artist. That was the only thing I picked up on. And I was confused until I read the Michelangelo example, which we do here. And a patron of the young. Okay, so and a lot of people miss this word too. A patron of the young Michelangelo. So are we talking about Michelangelo directly here?
No.
No, we're talking about someone younger, I think here, of Michelangelo that's saying like, hey, I saw this. It will be taken, and if I can make this, it'll be taken and you'll sell it much better, blah, blah, blah. Okay, continue on.
Within a few years, however, beginning with his first masterpiece, the Batches, Michelangelo had shown his contemporaries that great art can assimilate and transcend what came before, resulting in a wholly original work. Soon his genius made him the object of imitators.
All right, I feel like this paragraph, like I want to take all the sentences and reorder them.
I felt like it just kept jumping around to stuff, which is why I guess it's kind of a question too, like how, like when I finished reading this, I was like, cool, we just kind of talked about the different periods and how like fake and originals like correlated with the different periods. Like with a paragraph that's so dense and conjumbled, how should we kind of like summarize that in our words?
I think it's that as soon as I got to the second one, and then the second one I would have realized is a contradiction. The third one, I would have realized that I'm talking about a third period. I would have went back up to the first and just made sure I noted what are the difference between the three periods before I went on.
Okay.
Does that mean, like, don't be afraid to do that when you're reading. Once you come across, like there's another passage that has like it's the passage that you guys already did, where there's like the narrator, and she has 3 different types of her story.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, and like she's like, and like one of them, like she's in first person. One of them, like she places herself into the story, and one of them is like she shows them through other women. Like that's another perfect example where, like, if you don't catch it in that paragraph, and it's not like you have to have it all memorized, you're just like, okay, here's an example, I have these 3 different examples, and not just assuming that they're all the same. Because I think that's the big thing that we take. I'm sorry, Tyler. Yes.
No, you're good. Finish your thought, because I'm like doing another tangent.
Oh, I think that's the biggest thing here, is at least recognizing that they're different.
Okay.
I realized why I missed so many questions on this, because I thought this was like chronologically like talking and going through like the different periods. And I'm like, well, this is a totally different meaning to the entire, like, I mean, I can see how that just totally, I mean, you don't even have to look at the words. It's just like it doesn't really say like, oh, and then it moved from this and this and this. It's just like different periods.
But that's how we would read. That's how we would write, because we have common sense when we write. Like, but these, like, no, let's see how jumbled we can make it. And so essentially here we have this patron that is saying, we're like, oh, and it will be taken for unique and you'll sell it for much more. So within a few years, however, essentially Michelangelo became so great on his own and doing his own, what did we talk about it? We called it individual artistic identity. He became this object of imitators. So we're like, oh, people want to be like him. Cool. So I feel like all the rest of that green paragraph is going back to support the Italian Renaissance example. All right, Malika, can you do the last paragraph?
Sure. Okay. Fake also reminds us that in certain cultures, authenticity is a foreign concept. This is true of much African art, where the authenticity of an object is considered by collectors to depend on its function. As an illustration, the study compares 2 versions of a Kaiwara mask made by the Bambara people of Mali.
Okay, stop. I felt like this part made it very interesting. And if you didn't catch on what we have done so far, I feel like this 3rd paragraph came out of nowhere. You're like, okay, this is like over in left field. I feel like now it's kind of making sense since we broke it down. But what is the main point of everything we've read so far, Malika, of your paragraph?
So it's been kind of different ways faking has come about through different time periods, or like different examples of how people have faked art.
Sorry. I mean, just of the paragraph you read.
Oh, of this one? Okay, so now here this is another example of maybe what we don't think, or it changes the definition of fake, or it's questioning that whole idea of intended to deceive.
Yeah, it's like it's the case. It's like authenticity, like being unique is foreign. And because look at African art, it depends on its function. What example does this kind of remind us of the 3 examples we've been given so far?
Of like the medieval example?
Yeah, I see a parallel there. I'm like, oh, and I don't know, maybe that's where I went devotional use of like the purpose, where I was kind of drawing a similarity there. All right, so continue on.
Okay. As an illusion, the study compares 2 versions. Oh wait, I already read that. One has pegs, allowing it to be attached to a cap for its intended ceremonial purpose. The second, otherwise identical, lacks the pegs and is a replica made for sale. African carvings is notoriously difficult to date, but even if the ritual mask is recent, made perhaps to replicate a damaged predecessor, and the replica much older, only the ritual mask would be seen as authentic, for it's tied to form's original function. That at least is the consensus of the so-called experts. One wonders whether the Bambaran artist would agree.
All right, so what's the conclusion there? Or the main point there?
Authenticity of a function is considered by collectors to depend on its function.
Yeah, so between those 2 the two masks, which one would we want?
The one with the pegs.
Yeah, because we want the one that's actually going to do the work.
Mhm.
So we don't really care about how original and authentic something is. Like we want the one that like is intended for the original purpose. Awesome. Okay, so what do you feel like is the main point of this? Yeah, we'll go to Tyler. What do you think is the main point of this passage?
The whole passage.
Yes.
Do you want us to answer A or 21 or just like state it?
Just state it. Like, yeah, what is the main point? Yeah, just what do you think is the main point of this?
I would say that the definition of whether or fake artwork has changed over different cultures, and it means something different to each person or each one of those cultures.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, like fake, like what does it mean to deceive depending on the culture?
Yeah.
I like that. I felt like you were going the direction of over time, and I was like, no, not over time, over cultures. Yes. All right. Yes, Mohib.
Question. So, speaking of like over time, like in the second paragraph, like we did talk about chronological order, I guess, right? Because we did say that, like the Rome.
I think that we do go from, I don't think we know where Greek is.
Because it says like, in like the, I think like.
We go from medieval Europe to modern age of Italian Renaissance, but I think those are more, we're just comparing periods rather than just, I don't think the purpose of it is chronological.
Right. Because like in line 17, it says like in Imperial Rome, there was like whatever collecting earlier Greek art, but that's not really like, you're saying that's not really.
It could be, and I could be wrong. I don't know. Imperial Rome, is that a time period that's earlier than medieval Europe?
Oh, no,
I don't know that. I took it as like we have these, I didn't think about it in chronological order. I thought about it as we have Imperial Rome, we have medieval Europe, and then we have Italian Renaissance. And I thought about it more than that. Then I feel like that would be assuming that we know too much. For it to be chronological, I think that would be too much. There's no way we could know, like everybody could know that. Unless there were dates provided.
I also feel like it didn't really like link how they changed, like, oh, Imperial Rome was like this, and then it went to kind of like what Tyler said, and then it went to this, and then it went to this. Like it never really kind of like strung them together. It just kind of said, here's A, here's B, here's C.
Yes. There's another part that I missed when we were going over this that I should have highlighted that's huge, is what is the goal of this book? It's to reveal the study's broader concerns. And so I missed that. So that makes sense that we have all these different viewpoints, right? Because it's saying like, hey, these are reveals the broader concerns of this definition. And I don't know if it means like concerns in the sense of like, oh, watch out for this, but it's more so just exposing like, hey, this is what it means in different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I missed this, but what exactly is this study?
I think it is fake the art of deception reveals the study's broader concerns. And so study would be,
Like, what are they referring to?
I think Mark Jones' fake the art of deception is the study. Like it's Mark Jones's study is how I read it.
Okay.
Reveals the study's broader concerns. I don't know what else study it could be, but I think that like his study would be on what is.
I think I was also reading it to be like the study of science, the study of history, so like the study of artwork authenticity or something like that. I was thinking it in a broader way.
The study's broader reveals the study's broader concerns. Yeah, you can definitely yeah, I just took it as the art of deception, and that's what the study was. Like it's like a book, or the whole book is the study.
Okay.
I don't mean to go ahead, but what is the question? Where's the question? Because that's where like I got caught up in the first question. I was between B and C, and I was like, where the frick is the question? Like, I don't know what.
Yes. Yes.
I thought, where is the question? Okay. I thought, is it fake? Is it intended to deceive? Text begins in possibilities.
Like, I didn't think in that first paragraph, or really any time, that they were like, oh, but I don't know about this.
I guess, like, is it fake question is the question. Which that,
Yeah.
I remember now going back, and when I did this question, I remember struggling with that hardcore. Like, I didn't like that question mark in it.
I think also the begins by noting a variety of possibilities somewhere between the two extremes is kind of like a question. Like, there's no set definition. Like, it's it's not answerable right now or something like that.
There's like, yeah, okay. Which that would be what is fake. Like, that would be you putting in
Right.
what is fake. Yeah. And also, I might have been wrong where it says the greater part of fake is devoted to a chronological survey. So maybe it was chronological. But I didn't take too much thought into that. Okay.
Just a quick thing. So back to the question thing about the question. So isn't it like, I guess line 4, like isn't it just saying that isn't just asking, oh, is art of deception, is that considered fake or something? Huh?
I think it's like any piece of art, what makes it fake?
Okay.
So like the question mark in the title of Mark Jones' Fake, the Art of Deception. So the question mark reveals the study's broader concerns. So
yeah, that makes sense because like that third paragraph and that second paragraph almost seem like completely separate, but like with that question in mind, they're completely relevant.
Yeah, and I feel like it's like them raising their, he's like fake, like eyebrow raise. Like, let me show you why that's not fake. Like, you're looking at this through a completely, I guess I read this, I saw this YouTube video the other day about music and how we only study the theory of music through white culture, and how it's like unfair to other cultures because there's other composers and what our study is. And I read this and I see that fake, and I'm like, yeah, we're only looking through it through one lens, when then these other cultures of like what fake might mean to them. And I see kind of in and out. It was an interest. I don't know enough about music to really understand the YouTube video, but I'm like, that makes sense. Like, not everything can be viewed through Beethoven and Mozart. Anyways, okay. So the passage can be described by doing which of the following. So yeah, we are exploring a complex question. How many people got this one right?
I was like Tyler, I was between B and C.
The chronicle evolution of a thing. So what would be the chronicle evolution of a thing? What would be the thing?
So I kind of like how we were all talking, like there's a chronological, somewhat like a chronological order in the second paragraph. And so I was like, well, I guess that works. But like the third paragraph, there's no like time. It's just a concept basically for that third paragraph. So like that doesn't even work.
I was reading this, I did not get the vibe that, oh, look at how this changed over time. Because also we kind of go back in time too. Like we go from like what Imperial Rome is doing, medieval Europe's different, and then we kind of go back to this other one. Whereas that it's not like this, like, oh, look how we've grown.
And then also like we don't like for the African art, we don't know where that stands in the timeline, right?
No,
Right.
not at all.
Right.
I was actually between I was like A kind of enticed me because I was I know it's wrong, but like I was thinking, well, we talked about like Imperial Rome, then we're gonna talk about like fake from like the medieval Europe perspective, then like the African art perspective. So I was thinking like, oh, maybe like there's different points of views, like how
I love the last 4 words, but what does reconciling mean?
just like collecting, I guess.
Yeah, or like making it work, right? So do we reconcile very points that we say like, hey, these are how all these viewpoints can be true at once, and this is our conclusion? We don't really do that, right? We allow them all to be true on their own.
I see.
Like our goal isn't to be like, oh, see this, they're right about point A, they're right about point B, they're right about point 3. I'm going to take all these together and give you the perfect,
Okay.
like perfect equation for this.
I see. Okay.
And then I thought D and E were pretty easy to cross off. All right, so what did we have for 22?
I picked C, and I know that's, I don't think I liked any of them. I was kind of hinged on A, and I eventually crossed it off because I figured every culture is very strong. We didn't talk about every culture.
Nope, we definitely did not. What did you pick, Mohib?
I picked D. D as in dog. Just
Okay.
yeah, all the rest were kind of like either too strong or like just not like international market. For example, for E, like I don't know if that's
Yeah, without an international market to support it, yeah, E was super easy to cross off. I also thought A was really easy to cross off with virtually every culture. I read that and I was like, we didn't talk about every culture. Whether a work of art is fake or not is less important than whether it has artistic merit. We only talk about artistic merit maybe a little bit when we talk about Michelangelo, and we don't even really use the word merit. We just say people wanted to copy him.
I feel like that was a trick answer because of that first or that second sentence in the first paragraph talking about the merit.
Oh, merit of the object. Yes, I feel like they're throwing out words that were used and just putting them into an answer choice that looks tempting. Is that what, Tyler?
I crossed off B because we didn't talk about, granted, like we talked about fake and artistic merit. We never talked about like the importance of those.
Yeah, we never even say fake is bad. Maybe fake is great.
Yeah, I chose B. I think I got caught up. Like I was still thinking about the chronological thing, and I chose B. I was between B and D. I chose B.
Yeah, and but a work cannot be. We never talk about actually proving conclusively if something is fake or not. Like it's just broader terms. I like this one because we say like, hey, a variety of circumstances that because I can prove that directly from our text. Like these are the different things people consider. And is it difficult to determine whether it can be appropriately called fake or not? And if I can say yes to both of those, I can go with that answer. What, Mohib?
I was just saying like for D, when it says like appropriately be called fake, like we don't have like one specific solid like definition of like fake because it's so like varied between different like cultures.
It's all fake eyebrow raise. Like it's difficult.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So according to the passage, an artwork can be definitely classified as fake if the person who created it. So I went right back to the definition and went for that answer. Did everybody get this one right? Fabulous. Were there any ones which one were you struggling with? Was anybody struggling with any of them?
I think I was struggling in all that I was like, this seems too easy. I've noticed that with like, even in LR, like I'll pick an answer and I know it's right, but I'm like, it seems too easy, seems too good to be true.
Ed struggles with the same thing. I feel like you do. Maybe you don't. Or he struggles with the easier questions versus the harder ones, which maybe that's what you're getting to, Alyssa, where you're like, I know I can do all the hard ones.
Yeah.
Okay. So at least one example for each of the following. So on the accept questions, if I remember this, I cross it off. And if I don't, I skip it. And if I come down to 2, then I use Control F.
That's what I did.
Awesome. So I did not remember A, so I skipped it. Cultures in which the faking or art flourished, I remember that. Qualities that art collectors have prized in their act, yeah, because that's like the unique whatever. Cultures in which the categories fake and original do not apply. I remember that last one I was kind of thinking about, it's a foreign concept, so maybe and contemporary artists who have inspired fakes. I have that answer. And so between these two, I probably would have controlled F the word holy. Because I do think we do use the word holy somewhere, don't we? Maybe we don't even use the word at all. I can't.
Yeah, the second paragraph, the end of second paragraph almost. I lost it.
Oh yeah.
It's like the second last line of the second paragraph.
Resulting in a wholly original work. Yeah, but that, I feel like people get tripped up on that one, but that's just talking about that Michelangelo created the work. It's not actually categories of art that aren't either of them. What answers were you all between for this one?
I chose E.
I chose C. I don't know. I don't like doing this question.
I chose E. I chose E as well, but I always get tripped up on accept because I end up choosing. I forget that the accept's there, and I end up choosing something. Like it happens more times than I need it to.
No, that's such a real thing. Except where I would tell myself when I'd accept questions, I would be like, except going through, did this happen? Cross, like I have to remind myself of that, or else I completely forget. All right. So Malika, did you get this one right?
No, this is the one I got wrong.
What did you pick?
I chose C.
Yeah, me too.
I will say I was between C and E.
Like, where is the evidence for C? Like, not?
So
yes, the passionate individual artistic identity, but maybe I'm wrong. Did I get this one wrong?
Well, I think it's in the second paragraph. It talks about Greek art, like how Greek collectors, there was a widespread interest in collecting earlier Greek art. That's where I found that, or I thought it was A. A's right? I don't know.
Yeah, I thought A was, wait, hold on.
E
E
is the
is
correct.
right.
Yeah.
What?
E is
E is
correct.
right.
E is correct. Contemporary artist who's
because it's what the author did not talk about, and I felt really confident picking it because I don't remember reading contemporary.
Oh, contemporary artist. Okay, I see what you're saying. I was crossing off. Well, okay, so categories that are neither wholly fake nor wholly original, which I guess is the whole thing. So we're saying that these things aren't either wholly original or wholly fake because they fall somewhere in between. And then I read it as a passionate identification with the world of antiquity and a growing sense of individual artistic identity. That's what I took as the qualities that they prize. Oh, but the art collectors, what they prize. That's where you're getting yours from, Tyler. You're right.
Wait, isn't it contemporary? I guess I was attributing to contemporary artist Michelangelo.
Yeah, I that's what I did too, and I think that he's not contemporary.
Because I don't think I chose E.
He showed his contemporaries, but he's not actually a contemporary artist.
But that paragraph is also where they start talking about modern. Wait, where is it? The modern age of faking was with Michelangelo. I might be overthinking it, but
yeah, no, that sucked. That was a hard question.
Sorry, so what exactly is a proof for qualities? Like, where was that? Is it
what makes them want to collect something? And it is
so they had like a widespread
interest in collecting earlier Greek art. It was exactly what Tyler said, because it says that there were many different motives for collecting art. In Imperial Rome, it was interested in collecting early Greek art.
See, like for me, a quality is like a specific thing about like.
Yeah, apparently early is a quality in this text.
Okay.
That's why I kept C open, and I was kind of debating between the two. And I was like, because when I think of quality, I think of it's shiny or it's pretty or something like that, and like that wasn't in there.
Yeah, no, I think I probably would have controlled F, art collectors, too, for that one. Okay, so artistic merits of fake. So what do we imply? So did we make any, what predictions here of like, okay, artistic merits of fakes?
This one, when I read it, I was like, okay, well, I remember making the distinction that merits of fakes have nothing to do with like if it's actual, like the artistic merits have nothing to do with if it's actually fake or not.
Yeah, it's that sentence that we struggled with, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so what did you get this one right, Alyssa?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so walk me through your thought process through A through E.
So first I made that prediction and I like kind of quickly scanned. So I went through A. So because of the circumstances of its production, a fake cannot be said to have true artistic merit. We never talk about whether it has artistic merit or not. So I crossed that one off. A fake can be said to have artistic merit only if the attempted deception is successful. Again, we don't talk about whether, like, how it has artistic merit or anything about that. A fake may or may not have artistic merit in its own right, like it, regardless of the circumstances of its production. I liked that because, like, we haven't talked about artistic merit. Like, he's distinguishedly separated that from the conversation.
Yeah, we don't know.
It could be true. So that's why I liked that. And then I quickly went through D and E. Whether a fake has artistic merit depends on whether its creator is accomplished as an artist.
Doesn't matter.
We don't know about that. We don't talk about creators being successful or not. The artistic merit of a fake depends on the merit of the original work that inspired the fake. And again, we don't talk about what is needed to have artistic merit.
And C is definitely the most mild answer as well. May or may not have artistic merit. Yeah, and what's our direct support for that? The second sentence, the motives of its creator are decisive and the merit of the object itself is a separate issue. Direct support. Awesome. And then 26, by the standard described in the last paragraph of the passage, which of the following would be considered authentic? My loose prediction here was something that is being used for its intended purpose, which was something that preserves all the details. No, modern.
E.
E, yes, sorry, yep, E. And then for 22, which of the following best describes how the last paragraph, okay, so prediction here. What is the role of the last paragraph in relationship to the passage as a whole? Like, why do we include that? Why is it relevant?
My very loose prediction was it's just another support, like it's just another topic to support.
Okay, support of what?
That the question of fake or authenticity can vary.
Perfect, because if we did, I think a lot of people would say, well, it's just support, and we think all these examples are the same, but it's actually supporting that they can be very different.
So like when we, I think you mentioned like how the medieval Europe part like kind of like related to the, like, because we talked about functions, the function, right? Like, like that makes it authentic for the African art. And I think you mentioned that medieval Europe is somewhat like a same idea.
I took it as kind of similar because like medieval art cares more about the devotional uses. I was thinking that's more about use versus like the look of it, but it's still different.
Okay, so like it won't, like it's not like I guess additional evidence or additional like
I think all four of these examples are examples of how fake is different in each culture. I do think the last one is the more extreme, where it's saying like authenticity is even foreign to this culture. It's more on the extreme end.
Okay.
Did anybody get this one wrong?
What was the writing? Was it D? the right answer D? I forget. I think so.
Because I think E is the tempting wrong answer though. Why is E wrong? I thought it was the most tempting wrong answer.
Yeah, I was between those two. But I had a hard time, like, because I didn't fully understand the passage, like, I obviously didn't break it down as much as we did. I was still confused on what was being, like, said. So I was like, am I missing a general principle here?
I actually thought the general principle was like, what is fake? And I was like, yeah, it supports it. But I feel like affirm is much stronger. And it's like, it says, and therefore we do not have a right definition of fake, where instead it's more so like examining like another way that fake is determined. That's how I ended up going with D over E.
Like for me, I just didn't really think there was like a very like solid general principle. Like
Okay, and when you think of the rule principle too, like that's more of a rule, not a definition. Where I'm kind of putting in the definition of fake there. When we think about a general principle, it's like the general, it's almost the opposite, right? The general principle is that this is what fake is. Like, no, we're not supporting that. We're actually saying that it's all different. So that's actually a great distinction too, when we really think about principles, like almost like a rule. So did everybody love this passage?